Hi everyone, welcome back to Ronan's Den. I'm Steve. As always, I'm joined with my co-host Eric, and today we are talking about another Fabula Ultima class. Today we are going to be talking about the Elementalist. And I don't think there's a more straightforward class in Fabula Ultima than the Elementalist. It is what it says it is. You are an elemental mage who shoots lightning bolts, fire, ice, or whatever the hell type of element you want. Eric, what are your initial thoughts?
The Elementalist is, yeah, you just named it. It's the Black Mage of Fabula Ultima. I love this class. It is probably one of the best utility classes when it comes to damage because it can hit every elemental type. So if the player takes the spells, you're guaranteed double damage against everything you fight.
Yeah. So as always, in Fabula Ultima, when you pick a class, you get some free benefits. For the Elementalist, you start with a permanent increase to your mind points of 5. Mind points being what is used to cast spells. And also, you may perform rituals whose effects fall within the ritualism discipline. The first skill that you can potentially pick out of the skills listed are Cataclysm. When you cast an instantaneous spell, if you have an arcane weapon equipped, you may increase the spell's total mind point cost by up to your skill level times 10. If you do so, and the spell deals damage to one or more creatures, it will deal 5 extra damage to each creature for every 10 mind points by which you increased its total mind point cost. AKA, you spend a little bit of extra mind points to deal a little bit of extra damage.
Yep, that's 15 extra damage for 30 extra mind points. Something to be remembering, though, is spells are already expensive to begin with, and you do have to roll to attack with a spell. So this is a potential gamble, but like I said earlier, the vulnerabilities with this class where it can hit a vulnerable enemy, double damage, 15 extra on this, that's extra 30 just off the Cataclysm. That's not even taking into account the actual damage from the spell itself. This could be a one-hit fight ender if used correctly.
It could be, but then you also have to take into consideration the damage of some of the spells. For instance, Flare is the high roll plus 25 to one target, and it only costs 10 mind points. So the extra mind points actually don't do substantial damage compared to just casting the spell again. Now, as you said, getting that one kill in the first round, if you can pull it off, it's definitely worth it. But you kind of have to weigh that, is the mind points going to be enough to get me over the top and leave me with enough energy to be able to be useful moving forward? It's kind of a gamble, like you said, and there's kind of a micromanagement to it. I definitely see the appeal, and if you can get it in the correct situation against multiple targets, dealing that extra damage, and they're all vulnerable, that could be a massive. You could go from dealing 15 extra damage to 30 extra damage on 3 targets. So you went from a 15-point damage to a 90 points damage burst, which can be massive. So it's kind of that gamble, like you said, but
Yep. Which brings us to the second skill, which is honestly the bread and butter. This is the skill you're absolutely going to be taking at least a few levels in if you go with Elementalist, and that's Elemental Magic. Every time you take a point in this skill, you get to learn a new spell from the Elementalist list in the pages that come after this class. And all you got to do to cast a spell is throw your Insight plus Willpower and beat a target's magic defense. Now, something that I have noticed through play and running this game, typically, now it's not always the case, but typically the magic defense of a target is oftentimes less than their standard defense. So that's kind of nice.
My opinion of elemental magic, if you're not taking this as the first skill for your Elementalist, why are you taking the Elementalist? This is the bread and butter. This is how you get spells. Without this skill, you really don't have anything, right? Like it's outside of maybe one of the other skills, or if you have another class that's giving you spells, I don't know why you wouldn't pick this. It's how you it's your bread and butter. It's what you are. It's how you do how you do what you do. So it's pretty straightforward. Pick this, you get spells. The next skill is magical artillery. When you cast an offensive spell, if you have an arcane weapon equipped, you gain a bonus to your magic check equal to your skill level times 2. This is another one that I think is a pretty big must, right? Unlike things like Dungeons and Dragons or trad games, you actually roll to see if your magic goes off. So you have to roll and hit that magical defense. This is giving you bonuses to that roll, meaning you're going to hit or activate your spells more often. It's just a good skill.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say specifically elementalist spells. It's any magic check. So this is good even if you have other magical classes.
Yup. No notes. Like, I don't have anything else to say. Like, honestly, with Elementalist, you could get away with just taking 10 spells and getting your mastery of this job and taking the next one. I think that at the very minimum, you want to take, if you want to take the magical artillery, at least the 3 levels in it, for all the reasons you just said. It is a very nice, comfy skill. Ritual elementalism is the next skill on the list. Rituals are fun, they're beautiful, they're messy. We'll do a whole video dedicated to rituals and all the different schools of magic with the rituals that they are capable of doing. You could honestly get away with never taking this skill, though. Rituals allow you to do magical effects that are outside of the spells that are listed in the book. So, and they have one big rule, and that's they can't cause direct damage in and of themselves. Now, you can create situations that would cause damage to people, but you can't, say, throw a fireball. There's a spell for that. You could create a fissure in the ground, though, and a minor earthquake to knock people over. I have a love-hate relationship with rituals.
I agree. You could take this and you'll have fun doing it if you like the ritual mechanic. I personally kind of like it. But the problem with rituals is that it's very much up to your imagination. If you can think creatively, you're going to have a lot more fun with rituals than if you can't think creatively. And a lot of times I've found rituals to be more fun outside of combat than in combat. So it's kind of that storytelling ability. You're never really going to find a use for this when you're fighting an enemy. This is more like, to go back to one of the ones I used for the Chimerist, using it to bring an ally in. This one would be, hey, there's a massive storm. Use the Elementalist ritualism to send the storm away, to protect the city from being flooded. Those are the type of things you would use ritualism for. Ultimately, it's not necessary. You don't have to take it, and you're not going to miss anything if you don't. But if you want a little bit of that storytelling fun, I'd take it, but that's just me. The final skill on the Elementalist is the Spellblade. When you cast an offensive spell targeting a single creature, if the spell has a total mind point cost of your skill level times 10 or lower, and you have one or more bow, brawling, dagger, flail, spear, or sword weapons equipped, you may choose one of those weapons. If you do, your magic check for the spell will use the weapon's chosen accuracy check formula. For instance, the magic check for an elementalist spell cast through a bronze sword, page 131, will be dex plus might instead of insight and willpower. Basically, this is if you want to be that sword mage. It lets you be able to use martial swords and do your spell casting and not have to like sacrifice one or the other.
Yeah, this goes back to the whole how Fabula Ultima characters are built. Yes, we're talking about these classes on an individual basis, but Fabula Ultima requires you to multi-class. You have to take more than one class when you make your character. And after you get level 10, that class is mastered, you get a ending capstone feat, and you take another class. Spellblade is fantastic if you're taking Elementalist later in your career and you've already invested in those martial classes. This will allow you to still be pretty effective in your spell casting. So just on its face, if you're doing a lot of like magic classes, like Elementalist, Entropist, Spiritus, probably not the best skill in the world. But if you have Weapon Master, Fury, and Guardian, and you have one of those mastered and you're going to your next class, and it's going to be Elementalist, Spellblade is actually probably a good skill to take as your second or third one in with Elementalist at that point.
Yeah, definitely. All in all, I think the Elementalist does what it says it does. You're a spellcaster who throws elemental spells. If you want to be the fire or the wizard casting fireball, lightning bolt, snowstorm, those type of things, this is what you pick, and it synergizes with just about everything. I don't think there's really a class in the game that could not benefit from having a dip into Elementalist. What are your final thoughts?
No notes. I completely agree with everything you just said. This is something that everybody, if you want to add it to your build and you don't know what to add, Elementalist is a great solution to that because it's going to let you hit all the vulnerabilities in the game.
All right, Eric, take us out.
All right. Well, that's been our breakdown of the Elementalist class. We will be back again next week with some more of our Welcome to Cappy Terra game. We're running that every other Saturday here and we stream over on the Purple app before we upload. I think we could say Twitch on YouTube. I don't think YouTube's as temperamental as TikTok is.
I'm just so ingrained with saying the Purple app.
Right? Got to have all that special language so you don't upset the TikTok gods. But anyway, we'll catch you again next week with some fun Ronin's Den stuff, whether it's Capiterra or another class breakdown or another deep dive into some of the mechanics and rules for Fabula Ultima. We'll catch you next time. Please give us a smash on the like and subscribe button if you like this video. It really helps us out and gets the video in front of more people. All right, take care. See you next time.